Welcome back once again. It's a bit late in the day, but I have just been deleting videos because much of it, well, is redundant, and I wanted to cover off the progress, and there has been some, on the drill guide project for the 3-4-5 method. And there were periods of time when I'm thinking, oh, here we go. I've done the work, chopped up some nuts, ground some nuts down, and I'm winding up, going to be in the same position as I was before with the attempt at drilling the bar out to accurately locate the drill guides. And that didn't turn out well, or not as well as I would want it to be for the purposes that I'm going to be putting it to, which is accurately cutting melamine with my track saw and having a base upon which I can create positioning jigs. And that really does demand a fairly high accuracy. You really don't want to be compromising. So, as you may be aware, I have come up with the idea of using a 16mm threaded rod, gluing together some nuts so that I can locate my drill guides. And because it's got a 16mm threaded rod has got a pitch of 2mm, that means multiples of that will give me my 100mm spacing and 96mm spacing type of arrangement for my 3-4-5 methods, or for the panels, etc., for the bench docks. I had run up against some what I thought were issues about accuracies, because nuts aren't all created identical. They do not locate, therefore, accurately on the thread in the same manner that you want in this direction. So I started facing them off and trying to match them with the grind that I was putting on the bottom. And I was thinking, I'm making a rod for my own back again, and I'll get to the point where I will find that the accuracy hasn't been achievable. Good idea, not a good outcome. But the more I did, I started thinking about it, because there's bugger all else to do when you're grinding away and it's taking ages. And I was thinking, hang on, I've only got to worry about the X, Y directions. I don't have to worry about the Z direction. Of course, because when I put my guides in these nuts, they sit down on the table. Therefore, it has neutralized the Z axis. And that comes about because, regardless of the accuracy of the grind for making that flat on the nut, I neutralize it by the fact that the 12mm nut is sitting on the bench. It means that if that was a little bit higher or lower, it wouldn't matter. So I thought, that makes life easy for me. Also, I started, and this is where the big problem was, but it's not, as it turns out, I was concerned about getting this location or this direction dead right, because a little bit out is going to wind up me being no better off than having that flat bar, because that's what happened there. I was out by a small amount and a varying amount as you went along, which was basically a waste of time. And I think I found why I made that error, and I thought, I'll look for another way of doing it. And this is it here. Now, what I'm contemplating doing is putting a magnet against the nut that will hold it true and then this other nut can register up against that flat surface, meaning I've got a reliable, hopefully reliable, method for holding the nut in a consistent and true relationship to each other, or the two nuts are. And then I thought about that, and I thought, hang on a moment. Actually, now the magnet's picking up everything. That's pretty good what magnets do, I suppose. What if, now, just backtrack a little bit. Doing that means that the apex, or the point of the nut, is flush with the surface. And they'd have to be all exactly the same. And therefore, no matter where they are on the accuracy scale, so long as they sit on the thread in the correct rotation amount of position, they'll be exactly 100 millimeters apart, or whatever increment I wanted. But the nut is offset somewhat, and wanting to use super glue to adhere them together, and they do adhere very well together, as attested by my sample here, I thought, hang on, I can pack the end of the, not necessarily with this washer, but for an example, I can pack the nut with a spacer to align my tip of my nut, the other nut, and better locate here, giving me more surface area to glue with. I thought, oh, that's a jolly good idea. Solves a lot of problems. And then I thought too, I did make mention in another video that this method would be able to do the 25 millimeters, the non 2 millimeter increment or multiple. And that's not quite true, because the guide would have to be on the other side, other rotation, to get the 1 mil, being this is being a 2 mil pitch, remember. Anyway, I thought, why can't I find, which I will be able to, a 1 millimeter washer, and then that would, and add it to my packer, that would move the nut across the 1 millimeter, paint that a particular color so it stands out as being the odd number rather than the even number. And then that means that can then be used to space for 25 millimeter increments that are also desirable in my setup, because I want to have some of my panels with 25 millimeter increments. Seems to make sense to me. So a lot of the issues have gone away simply because X and Y I can achieve by packers, and Z becomes not an issue at all because it's already in its correct position as it's sitting on the table. Thank you very much. Let's go to the, well, I won't say where we go to. Let's just go to have a party. Well, I don't know, making ish up at the moment. But that seems to me now to expand the flexibility of this approach using the nut and thread combination. The only caveat, which certainly gets countered by having a lock nut, is the amount of movement on the thread itself. And there is some, there's almost always going to be some. But a lock nut used on the same side all the time will push the assembled, the assembly that I'll be using here again in the one direction. It will always be up against the particular side of a thread, meaning there is zero movement in these guides. To be fair, I really don't think that amount of movement would constitute a lot, but when you're doing something like the 3-4-5 method, I think it demands that we go to the nth degree to get rid of all of those variables, because even when using the Premiere version of for the 3-4-5, which I believe, I've got no affiliation with them whatsoever, but the path system is probably the best engineered one out there, and even that can, by the time you've done lots of holes, it can have error introduced into its use. The system itself probably hasn't got a lot of error in it because of the machining accuracy, but its use can. And Peter Parfitt, the developer of that system, addressed that and said there is a particular sequence that better reduces the incidence of that sort of user-induced errors or intolerances. So ditto here, if we can remove all viable movement, then it really, I think, will pay dividends. Even down to the fact that I want to increase the accuracy of the interface between my 8mm, where have I got them? 8mm. Hang on, I'm just struggling to get the drawer open. These 8mm centre bits, they have a small but again, these haven't got my drawer pulls on yet. Now, where are we? The reason I'm having to get one of these is because the guide I was using is now somewhere located underneath my bench. Anyway, these are an 8mm bushing. This main body of the centre bit is 8mm. We put it in there and it's like, oh, that's a nice fit. But I can give a very, very slight wobble to it. Very small, within even my tolerances, but this thing here is my tolerance adjuster. It's spray paint. Stick this in your drill, or whatever. Turn the drill on, have the spinning, spray, let dry, spray, let dry. That gives a few microns per coat that can be used to take up the little bit of inaccuracy in the machining between the two. After all, this was not machined to go in here. It just simply is an 8mm centre bit. This was designed to be used in this, and even that has a tiniest bit of movement. Very, very small. I mean, really small. Even more so, these are the guides that are supposed to go in here. They too have a tiny, imperceptible, but, well, no, it's not imperceptible because I can perceive it, but a tiny amount of movement. So it's these sorts of things that if you're able to address, why not do that? Now, set my calipers to a 0, set it to 0, measure what that is. This is the one that was designed for it. 7.84, 7.71. So you can see that there is a slight discrepancy there, and 7.99. I'll just have to wobble it. That is close to being exactly 8mm as you'll ever get. So all these tiny 7.8. So you can see all these variables. If we can address it by using spray paint as the option, I'm just saying it's a good idea. It may be a terrible idea, but we can spray some of these surfaces. They won't wear particularly well, of course, just being spray paint, but it'll be enough. Get rid of the wibble wobble, and we can better locate to the nth degree our positions for our 3-4-5 method, of which, to be fair, no one will probably ever benefit from, or I won't, not in my workshop, but I could well imagine that if this became a demanding requirement and someone wanted to follow this idea, for their own purposes, then they may want to think about some of these small issues before they become a big issue. I'm happy where I'm going. I was happy when I was doing the bar as well, where I was going, and then found that I was not happy because I couldn't get the accuracy. But this one is addressing a lot of the issues of movement. I don't actually have to measure anything. I just have to locate and offset these nuts as best I can, and then we'll go from there. Anyway, I think you get the idea. You probably take if you wanted to do this yourself, you probably take the idea and refine it in ways I haven't or won't think about. But at the moment, we are progressing. That's one thing. The laser cutting company hasn't got back to me yet. I can well imagine it's going to be several $100s worth of cutting and the steel. So it may be I just choose not to do that. So I've got this in the background sort of thing, ticking away, developing it up to see whether it works or not. But if I do decide to go with the laser cut profiles, then some of this becomes redundant, but I can see this being able to be used in a manner that the flat bar can't be if I don't have all those other options also done at the same time. One of the things I've got them to price was not just the flat bar, but a plate, a 250mm square plate, 10mm thick, with holes in one area spaced at 20mm and holes spaced at 25mm, meaning I'm kind of covering off some of the things here. What I didn't do, which I should have, still can do I suppose, is get one area drilled out for 96 for the use of the cabinetry side of MFT tops. But if I was going to do that, I'd really want the flat bar itself also to be at 96, so I can space them correctly. And I'm not intending to do that because I've got no real desire to do that. But if I can use this and have it as a bonus at no cost whatsoever, no additional cost, then that's where this will be a better idea, says I. Rightio, that's it. Going in for a cup of tea. Yay. I'll get back to you on the development. At this stage, I'm quite happy. I'm currently drilling out some of these 12mm nuts for 13mm diameter so I can tap them. Pretty straightforward, got to say. The only thing I might do differently, if I had to do it again, is not use galvanized nuts because the quality of the nuts aren't really that great. I might have been better off using some zinc coated ones, which do seem to be a little bit better in their accuracy in the machining when they were manufactured. Anyway, that was just an aside, because I have noticed that there is a little bit of variance in the quality of the nuts. Anyway, with that, I'll leave you alone and I'll go and have my cup of tea. Rightio. See you later now. Bye.